ladies and gentlemen, I'm at the Leon Levy Native Plant Preserve. Unfortunately, Lakeisha, Rob, and Meredith are not. Too bad, too sad. You could have come. Flights are open. COVID tests are being had. So, la-di-da, too bad. So we're here celebrating 10 years of the Leon Levy Native Plant Preserve. And, for me, it's personal because I'm like from the center of the universe, which is Tarpon Bay, Eleuthera. But this is in Governors, so it's not Tarpon Bay. Where Biad is, Biad is from Governors, and Biad is here, one of our strong supporters. But it's okay, it's not Tarpon Bay, but it's okay. So I want to see who else we got on the call. I know we had a good number of people. Oh yeah, I see some of my colleagues. I see Dave Hewitt. Oh my God. And Joe Wazalewski, Carla, she's going to be here soon. Carla Kosgrip. Oh, I see Dr. Pam Reed, one of our board members. Philip Reach, Paul DeLuca. Raymond Jungles. Oh my God, Raymond Jungles is here. Raymond is a very special part of this process because the waterfall behind me, the incredible wetland, freshwater wetland, our amazing laugh house, all of those are Raymond Jungles' creation. So Raymond, I were here because obviously you and your team are an important part of what we're celebrating today. I see my colleague Shelley. I see Stuart Bowe. Stuart Bowe, welcome. Tara McTaggart, who's a long-term supporter and good friend of the BNT. So yeah, we got a good crowd. Hardy Eshbar. Hardy Eshbar is like, Ethan, you know who Hardy is. He's like the god of botany in the Bahamas, and we feel honored. I see our president, Jeff Andrews. Jeff is here, and I'm glad Jeff is joining us. We also have in the house, two of our board members flew over. Marvin Arrington is here, and the one and only Hank Ferguson, who's also on our board. William Dougie Douglas. And Dougie and I used to run around Tarpon Bay a lot. Dougie is, of course, a strong supporter of Eleuthera and the Bahamas. He lives in Cotton Bay. He's been here forever. But we let him get into Tarpon Bay sometime. So yeah, we are here at the Levy Preserve. Get rid of this so I can see people. Hey, Meredith, how you doing? I see everybody's here. So, on the panel, I got with me, obviously, Dr. Ethan Freed. I got Rob Goldrich, the president and CFO of the Leon Levy Foundation. I got Meredith, who handles all of the programs. I think she's really the smart one there. Rob thinks he's in charge, but Meredith approves everything. She and Shelby. My good friend and colleague, Lakeisha, who I stole from the Department of Marine Resources many years ago, who's now our director of parks. And the one and only Ethan Freed, Dr. Ethan Freed, who is the new god. He's replaced Hardy as the new god of botany in the Bahamas. But I know Ethan is glad to see Hardy here because he's certainly one of Ethan's mentors. So I just wanted to really reflect we've been here. I saw Raymond Marvin, who was here, also involved managing the construction. Andre Gardner from Governor's Harbor, local Governor's Harbor boy, he was the contractor for this incredible space. And so we've achieved a lot. It's only 10 years, but it's an important 10-year period, part of the BNT's 60 years as an organization. When Shell became the BNT in 2003, maybe talking about this project, I just joined the BNT. I didn't meet her when she first came to talk to us. And then later I was introduced to her by, one of our leaders at the BNT. And they didn't really know what she wanted to do. They said, this little old lady came in, I think she wants to do a little garden at our house. Maybe she'll give us $20,000 or something to plant some trees. So, all right, well, it's okay. And then I called a friend of mine at the Nature Conservancy, because we didn't have the fancy donor research software. I said, can you check out this name for me? She called me back and she said, look, you need to sit down, okay? And you need to get on a plane today to go and meet this lady because she is the genuine big deal. She loves botanical gardens. By then we knew what Shelby and Leon had done at the New York Botanical Garden, at the Brooklyn Botanical Garden. at the Met. So we knew we were dealing with someone that knew how to do projects, that really put her money and her talents behind what she wanted to do. And she, we came and then she told me about her vision. And it was a little loose as far as I was concerned because I didn't really get it. I'm like a big picture guy, but I wasn't sure what she wanted to do. She told us about the bush medicine, Leon Levy, when he would come to Eleuthera, their Bahamian caretaker would offer him some bush medicine. And I don't think he really believed it worked on him, but he had to drink it because she wouldn't stop until he drank it. But he did believe, Leon honestly believed, and Ethan and I always talk about this, that there was something to it. And he knew that the local people were onto something, even if it didn't work on him. And he reached out actually to the Dean of Pharmacology at Oxford and said, look, I want you guys to study this. And unfortunately, Guy probably missed an incredible gift, a chair in botany, tropical botany. So he wrote back, oh, rubbish, Leon, rubbish. Of course, we all know, now, so many years later, so much is happening with botanicals, things being discovered, medicines, etc., from botanicals. So what a missed opportunity. But Shelby knew what she wanted. And I spoke to Ethan. Ethan was then working in Tampa. I said, wait, I don't know what you're doing. I don't know what you have planned, but it ain't gonna happen this weekend. Get your lip on the plane and get to the Bahamas today. Fortunately, he had some flexibility in his schedule. And he came over and, he met Shelby. We started looking. He'll tell you about what he did here and how he found this place. But that was quite fortuitous that, Ethan and I knew each other and we met Shelby. And 10 years later, magic has happened. And this project has been pivotal, not only for the funding it provided, it's really a true partnership that goes beyond this little space, but really goes all the way to the wider Bahamas National Trust and the Bahamas generally. So we're really proud of it. We always go to Rob and Meredith for advice on other things not related to the preserve, fundraising, etc. So this is a strong partnership that I'm so happy I came that afternoon and met with Shelby. I'm so glad Ethan was available. And then for me, the best thing that ever happened in my life, really for a while, is that Ethan was not given tenure at the University of Tampa. And we were bummed about it for an hour. Well, he was bummed. I was like, yay! And because I knew now he was free to come and work this project, and magic we created. And so that came together nicely for us. And, as they say, the rest is history. So I've talked enough. I'm told like someone's about to throw stuff at me from the background. It's homework. There are people in the back making faces and saying bad things about you. So I got to stop. And I'm going to introduce Rob Goldrich. So Rob's been with the foundation. I don't remember. He'll tell you how long. But, Rob came on board when we had, we were into this project a couple of years into this project. And he's the president and CFO of the foundation, spearheads a lot of the stuff that the foundation is involved in. Look, we know we are the most important project that you guys work with. I don't care how big your other projects are. I don't care where they are. This is it. We know, Ethan and I know that we are number one and we're not giving it up to anybody. I don't care how many institutes you build, how many countries you visit. This is it. And I want to thank Rob and Meredith for all the support, all the guidance, stuff we're doing with the incredible campaign this year to help raise money for the BNT more broadly. But I'm just going to stop and I'm going to introduce Mr. Robert Goldrich, the president and CFO of the Leon Levy Foundation. So Rob, it's your time.
Eric, you're awesome. Thank you so much for that amazing introduction. And Meredith, Ross, we're so happy to have you here on the panel with me. Unfortunately, Shelby White couldn't be here today. So we have Meredith and me representing the foundation. Eric is right. The foundation, we are in love with the BNT. They are one of our most important partners through all our philanthropy that we do all around the world. We love the BNT. Shelby and Leon bought a house in Eleuthera decades ago. They fell in love with the island of Eleuthera. They fell in love with the Bahamian people, and have had many wonderful family and lifetime experiences on Eleuthera. And Shelby really wanted to give back and wanted to contribute and wanted to have an impact on the island. And she, like Eric said, she had a background in natures and gardens. She had done tremendous amount of work at the New York Botanical Gardens and the Brooklyn Botanic Gardens and in Westchester County, outside New York City. And she had a vision where she wanted to found a piece of property, a gorgeous piece of property, where she wanted to conserve this land, conserve the flora, conserve the fauna, and really have this for the Bahamian people to enjoy, for visitors to enjoy, as a opportunity for job creation in Eleuthera, which is so important to us. We really want to be able to employ and help the Bahamian economy. And like Eric said, thank God he got on the plane that day and came to Eleuthera, because the planets were in alignment, the stars were in alignment, with Eric and Dr. Freed having been available, being there at the right time, the right place, coming together with Shelby and creating this extraordinary vision, which now 10 years later we could see has been a huge success. Adding into the mix Raymond Jungles with his incredible experience and expertise in landscape architecture, added amazing water features and other features to the preserve, which has, along with everything that Ethan and the BNT has done, has made this a world-class botanical preserve. It's absolutely extraordinary. Shelby never does anything half-ass, and you could really see here the product of the force and work of Shelby White. We are the #1 favorite thing to do on Eleuthera, according to TripAdvisor. And like Eric said, in addition to the gorgeous trails, water features, and vistas, one of my favorite things is Ethan's Tower, just walking up there and seeing out across Eleuthera, both sides, and it's just one of the most breathtaking views anywhere. You know, you have the bush medicine, you have the Center for Propagation of Plants and Trees, you have the Educational Center. Education is hugely important to us, and we're so fortunate and grateful that we're able to work with students throughout Eleuthera who get to come there and learn about their island. I want to give a shout out to some people from the BNT, because this could not have been accomplished without our amazing partners there. So, there are so many, and if I don't mention your names, please forgive me. But obviously, Eric, absolutely amazing. Lynn, Portia, Shelley, who's helped us with science and education, newcomers, Anna, and then the people at the preserve who over the years have been the leadership there. Fallon is our sister, our family member at the BNT. We absolutely.
She's actually here today, Rob. Fallon is actually here today. She got to come over. She interrupted a holiday to come, so I just threw that in.
Great. And after, or actually, I think it was before Fallon, was Mark Daniels, an incredible individual who made a huge impact on the preserve. And now our current Heidi Johnson, who we just adore, and who's built upon what Fallon and Mark have done. All the staff and landscapers who work there are all their sweat they put in every single day to keep the place in incredible shape. It's gorgeous. So thank you to all of them. And then Jeff Andrews, as president of the BNT Council, and the fellow council members, thank you so much for being our partner, and thank you for all the attention that you've given at the BNT onto the preserve and helping the preserve be successful. You know, for us, the preserve was the entree for us to get to know the BNT. And now we are now partners with the BNT overall throughout the Bahamas, not just really thinking about Eleuthera. We think about the well-being of the BNT. It's so important for the Bahamian economy, for Bahamian preservation, marine preservation, and which affects this hemisphere. And the work they do is priceless. And we're so proud of our relationship with the BNT. So I think that's pretty much what we wanted to say today. And thanks for including us in the program. We're so excited to mark this 10-year anniversary. So thank you very much.
Great, thank you, Rob. And yeah, I'm glad that Fallon got to make it over. I see also joining us the great Pericles Melis, past president of the BNT, who was very instrumental in getting everything set up and creating all of the agreements. Pericles asked me to convey to you guys personally, and asked you to pass on to Shelby his personal regrets for not being able to be here. He would have been here in person, but I know he's online and he's listening. So thank you, Pericles. Raymond, yeah, I saw your comment. Absolutely. It was great working with you and, seeing your magic come to light. And yeah, so much happened. And now I'm going to introduce Lakisha. Lakisha Anderson Roll. She got married. They can't leave that out. She gets upset. Lakeisha is our incredible director of parks. She's an amazing individual. She's managing major projects. She's brought us the largest project the BNT's ever had, with this Jeff full-size project. I know sometimes she regrets ever getting involved with it, but it's going to create some incredible magic. But she leads an incredible team, but she provides incredible leadership. So I'd like to introduce Lakisha Anderson Rule, who's going to talk a little bit about stuff.
Good afternoon, all. I am joining you from the lush retreat gardens here in New Providence. The inspiration behind the creation of the Leon Levy Native Plant Preserve on Eleuthera. The BNT currently manages 32 national parks across the Bahamian archipelago, 10 of which are terrestrial parks or other protected areas. Now, these protected spaces are important and critical to preserving Bahamian biodiversity, especially as it relates to maintaining the habitat integrity and species diversity across the islands. So they offer a place of refuge for plants and animals to survive and thrive, especially those that are endemic or only found here in the Bahamas. Now, many people are not privy to what goes behind the care and management of the Levy Preserve and other protected areas managed under the National Park System. Of course, looking at a place like the Levy Preserve, they require regular maintenance. So for the upkeep of these beautiful spaces, maintaining the trails, trees, plants, nurseries, and other outdoor features, buildings and facilities, support vehicles and equipment are all important site management activities. Resource monitoring is also another important activity conducted periodically through scientific research, monitoring the health of species and habitats within park boundaries, especially any of those that have been considered key species. And of course, and also important would be controlling the spread of invasive species, both within the national parks and also in the adjacent areas. Other elements of management includes enforcement and surveillance, education and outreach, visitor services, sustainable finance, which is at the top of the list because we need to ensure the financial sustainability of park operations. And of course, as Rob would have mentioned, proper staffing capacity. And we do have an incredible team at the Levy Preserve and throughout the Bahamas National Trust that takes care of the day-to-day operations and functions of the 32 national parks. Now, what does the future of the BNT look like on Eleuthera? Well, as many of you are aware, we have been actively pursuing the protection of Sweetings Pond and anticipate yet another world-class national park like the Leon Levy Native Plant Preserve. Our teams have led a series of public consultations, administered education and outreach initiatives in the schools and within the communities, and have been afforded the opportunity to work closely with scientists like Dr. Heather Mason-Jones, Dr. Ethan Freed, who was on the call, and others to collect the relevant scientific data, all of which are steps in declaring new protected areas. Now, it is our hope to again partner and co-manage with the Leon Levy Foundation for the long-term management and sustainability of Seahorse National Park. With the protection of Sweetings Pond delicate ecosystem, investment in infrastructure, Seahorse National Park will provide the potential for educational opportunities, both for students and researchers, and it has the potential to develop small-scale ecotourism activities to benefit the local communities. So in short, there is a bright future for our work on Eleuthera, coupled with plans to also collaborate with the government on the other 8 protected areas proposed for Eleuthera under the expansion of the Bahamas Protected Area System. And so in the next 10 years, when we celebrate the 20th anniversary, we will be celebrating and talking about the great successes with Seahorse National Park and other protected areas on Eleuthera.
Great, thank you. I told you she was smart, much smarter than me. I actually work with, I think, some of the most talented, smart, dedicated people on the planet. Lakeisha, certainly some of the other directors and staff on the call. Appreciate each and every one of you. Everything we achieve is because the people that work for this organization and the people that lead it believe in a mission of conservation and sustainability. So glad Lakeisha mentioned Sweetings Pond, Seahorse National Park. That is something that coming here past 2 days I've gotten fired up about because I understand there's decisions going to be made soon about that. And so we're going to be in discussions with the government soon because we need to make sure that that happens because it's going to have a lot of potential. And as Rob said, you Google, you go on TripAdvisor and you ask what to do. This is the top thing to do, and Sweetings Pond is going to be right close second. So we're looking forward to that. And so now, Dr. Fried, you know, I've never seen anybody so excited about a tree in my life. I mean, for Christ's sake, I mean, it's like, you know, I mean, I tell Ethan, trees are just things that feed birds. Why do you get so excited? You know, and then he has to learn every scientific name in the world, and I don't. I just give him common names. But you know, it's Ethan, and so much of what we created here from day one is because I knew Ethan. I knew he could get it here. I know he could get it done. He came and he got it done. And 10 years later, he's still here. He's getting old. He hasn't grown a lot. You know, he's still short, but he is still a powerhouse in the world of botany, and not only here, but globally. And a part of how of how we've been exposed to the world is because of Ethan's knowledge and his respect amongst the global scientific and botany community. On that, I'm going to turn it over to my good friend, colleague, Dr. Ethan Fried.
Thank you, Eric, for your kind words. I got to say, talking about the vision and the creation of the Levy Preserve, for me, I have to consider myself one of the luckiest botanists on the entire planet. The opportunity to go from where I was with my background in the flora of the Bahamas, and then meeting Shelby and her explaining this vision that she had, this idea of creating a park that really focused on native plants and bush medicine. And I spent decades really studying the flora here, and have someone excited about that and think to myself, hey, I have seen some really cool plants that we could bring in and really showcase and talk about and stuff like that. And so to be on this project, this was not a project where I think many projects start out at, where there's an idea, drawings are done, things are thought up, and then a piece of land is found and it's sort of stamped upon the landscape. This was a very different, much more organic process. The stuff that we went through was taking this idea that Shelby had, that she wanted to promote native, she wanted to promote bush medicine, and then finding the right piece of land, not particular to any one thing, but something that if you were going to talk about land, the way you would talk about a house, that it had good structure, it had good bones. The piece of land that we ultimately looked at, it had great diversity. It had diversity in its habitat, it had diversity in its species, and it allowed us to say, hey, we could do a lot of different kinds of things. And to take that land, and instead of saying, hey, there's this other vision out there and we'll push it on it, was to say, hey, we have a general idea and a philosophy, and now we have this piece of land, and let's see how this piece of land can tell us how we could show those things off, and how we can find a way to see what's already there, rather than make things that weren't seen before. So that was a lot of that vision and creation, and that pushed how we did things and then what we did and how we created this philosophy of supporting natives, and then the things that would go along with that in terms of conservation. And that's kind of where we're at now, looking at this future. How do we take what we have in the programs, the science, the education, the capacity building, and how do we see ourselves 10 years from now? How do we take what we've done and expand it out? How do we push this envelope for conservation, not just here, but to become a training ground, a place where people would come from around the Caribbean and look at a place like the Levy Preserve and say, hey, that's how it's done. That's what you should do. That's the model, or a great model for how you look to develop gardens and do conservation. And a lot of it's how we're able to do things. Yeah, we built the place and created trails and features and stuff like that, but it's that underlying structure of being a botanical garden that has lots of the natives here. They're labeled. We're able to bring people into the environment, use it as a training ground for diversity, whether it's plant diversity, but also great bird diversity. I think we have now over 77 different species of birds that have been observed within the Levy Preserve. And this allows us to use this site to do training. We've been running this college internship program now for, 6 years? We've had 18 students through the program. A number of them are now working in the industry, working in environmental science areas, going off and working on higher degrees and stuff like that, as well as to be able to bring kids in. We've had just about every student on Eleuthera at some point in the last few years make it through and see our programs and see what we have on the site. And of course, certainly for the tourism, this is a place that attracts in lots of people. Not everybody wants to come and just see a beach. Don't get me wrong, the beaches here on Eleuthera are fantastic, but sometimes it's nice to see other stuff, and we're able to show that off. And people have a lot of questions about natural history, and we're the kind of place that they get their questions answered. So we really are well supportive in that type of new tourism that we're trying to get into Eleuthera. And I think one of the final things that we're really doing and promoting is a couple different projects, one of which is our Adoptive species program, where we're working with all the local schools here on Eleuthera to each adopt a signature plant species. So we have a sea grape school and a horseflesh school and a jacaranda school, and each one will then have that species associated with them as a program. And I'll tell you, kids love it. They love digging holes and planting trees. That's always a good time. And the other thing is some of the projects we worked on this concept of rewilding, where we have homeowners and landowners that have bought properties and then realize that their property is basically like grass and coconuts and maybe some invasive species, and want to go back and have lots of diversity, knowing what it will pull in. We worked with homeowners on Harbor Island that took a grass and coconuts landscape, brought in dozens and dozens of different species, and now a full forest on their land. Another great project, if you're in Nassau, is to stop by the National Art Gallery, which put in a sculpture garden, and we worked with them. We brought in species that we've been growing here to create a forest right in the heart of downtown Nassau with local artists. And with lots of people being able to come and see it. The plants are labeled, and we're able to do that kind of stuff because the preserve runs all these different programs, whether it's the conservation program, the education program, our native plant nursery program. All of those are just different layers that we get to do. And I got to tell you, as a botanist, as I said, I'm super lucky because this is fun as all heck to do.
Good, thank you. Thank you very much, Ethan. And Anna wanted me to talk a little bit about what's next. Phase 3. We've been several phases, and now we're looking at. We recently acquired some additional property for 5 acres on Banks Road, expanding the size of the preserve, and we're going to be doing renovating those buildings, creating a true science program, laboratories. A herbarium is going to be here. And we're going to expand our ability to host more students, more partnerships with other institutions and universities. So that's going to be really exciting. And we're in the final stages of planning that. So, keep watching the BNT and the Preserves Facebook pages because we're going to be sharing a lot of information about that. So at this time, I guess, Anna, we're going to ask people if they have questions. So we have we're going to open up your mics, I think, if you want to ask a question live, or you want to put it in the chat box. Chat is probably better, I'm told. Yeah, okay, I'm getting other instructions. I talk too much. So Q&A or chat box. Let us know if you have questions, and then we'll try and accommodate your questions. So Elijah, you guys can let me know if we got questions, because I'm not sure I can see on my phone here, on my iPad. And no Q&A. I guess nobody's got
So
questions.
we don't have a question in the chat, but I do see a comment from Lisa Sorensen saying congratulations, and she did indicate that they hope to work with us on an exciting bird project at the preserve in the coming months. Fingers crossed. Funding pending. So that's some exciting news from Lisa.
Great, thank you, Lisa Sorensen, who is the executive director of the Birds Caribbean. She's also has a lot of experience working in the Bahamas. Did a PhD working here, so we claim her a lot. So thank you, Lisa. So Ed, someone's asking, are there any new plant exhibits? Sounds like a Ethan Freed question. Ethan, any new plant exhibits?
We always have something in the works, depending on when someone last visited. Our most recent sets of plant displays have been working on focused on basically a number of taxonomic groups. So we've been putting in a couple new beds that showcase a couple groups of legumes, some of which are very common here, and then another bed which features plants that are in the jacaranda family. And that's a big family for us because it includes the Tabebuia bahamensis, or five-finger, which is our logo species, as well as Tecoma stans, which is the national flower of the Bahamas, the yellow elder, all within that group.
Thank you. Well, I see Hardy, you see his comment, Ethan, there. Hardy wants to have Ethan tell everybody, how you get the plans, how you got them to build, to help build what you got here, which we have here.
Well, we did a couple different things. So as we were doing the initial stages build out, that phase one, going back to 2010, we had about an acre of area that was completely degraded. It was down to nothing but raw limestone. There was nothing of any value there, invasive species. So that was a full acre that we needed to return back to forest. At that point in time, we were buying trees. We bought something like 3,500 trees and shrubs to fill in that acre to turn it back into a natural forest. Now, since that time, we have our own nursery now. So we now go and collect stuff by seed and grow it. We have over 75 different species of native plants in the nursery, including a number of our single island endemics, which we have in our nursery system for ex situ conservation projects. But to get additional new species for the preserve, in normal times, I try and get out to at least 2 or 3 different islands to go plant hunting, to go see what new things we can bring in to showcase off. I will always recommend Andros and Great Inagua as great plant locations.
Good, thank you, Ethan. Hey, Sharon, Sharon? Good to see you, Sharon McPherson. We met a couple of weeks ago at Shelby's. Great question. What are our plans to increase commercial sustainability of the preserve? That was a good question, and we keep talking about this internally. Clearly, so this place obviously takes a lot to run because we create, we have to keep it really first class, and so we need to keep people employed. And by its very nature, and one of the good things about Eleuthera is it doesn't get tons and tons and tons of people. So we're not going to be overrun with visitors to provide the type of income from user fees to provide the financial viability for the organization. So obviously things like grants, tour operators. Sharon, Sharon, we'd love to pick up our conversation we started a couple weeks back because that's the thing we have to do with these national parks. And that's something that Lakeisha constantly works on. Kay, our Director of Finance and Operation, having a lot of discussions now about the, how to make these parks financially viable, and what are the commercial financial opportunities for locals, for partnerships, for concessions, real business opportunities for, built around these national parks. And that's something we're spending a lot of time thinking about. Someone asks, can you talk about a bit more about the benefits of rewilding, Ethan?
Oh, I'd love to talk about that one. Yeah, that's
I'm sure you would.
Near and dear to my heart in terms of restoration. I think some of the most obvious benefits to rewilding is just the additional wildlife that you get into your space. Most people's yards have very low diversity of plants. They might have grass, they might have coconuts, they might have a few other things. And that's like your base layer. That's going to determine all the rest of your layers of diversity largely. So the more species of plants that you have, especially natives, the more birds, the more insects, the more lizards, you're going to just have a lot more life around you. You're going to have cleaner air, you're going to have more shade, you're going to not see your neighbors, and your neighbors won't see you, which I think is a good thing. But it's really about that supporting natural systems, that you're going to have just a lot more birds and interesting things coming into where you are. And you'll be supporting that. And there's a level now, we always want to talk about issues of climate change and climate change resilience. And going native is going to be plants that are going to be more likely to adapt to these changing conditions versus plants that are from somewhere else on the planet.
Yeah. Ethan, do you see Dan's question? Dr. Dan Brumbaugh, who is one of the science advisors to the Bahamas National Trust Council. I don't know what Dan's doing getting into plants, because Dan is a first-rate marine biologist, but he's crossing the line for you, Ethan. Dan is asking what kinds of studies, i.e. interviews, have we conducted, or what do we do to document the kinds of conservation knowledge and messaging that visitors come away with? How do we document what impact and impression we have on our visitors?
I think I'm going to take that question as what impact are we having in terms of the preserve in that question. Well, because we have so much in the way of displays, we talk about issues of endemics. We talk about diversity. People are able to see that within the site and have that takeaway that these are special plants and that they are unique to certain locations. I think that's the biggest takeaway is they walk away and can gain that information about what our conservation issues are, but at the same time walk away and say, hey, a natural area can be beautiful, that it's not just bush, that there's a lot of beauty to what's going on around us if we take a chance to look at it and open our eyes to it.
Thank you. Yeah. Ethan, one more question from Philip Weish at the University of the Bahamas, formerly of the Best Commission. Ethan, how has the preserve changed over the 10 years? I guess besides switching out Mark for Fallon and then switching out Fallon for Heidi. In your opinion, how has the preserve changed over the 10-year period?
Oh, we've certainly changed a lot, and it's really because of where we were 10 years ago. And if you go back to March 11th or March 24th, 2011, we were functional. We had our doors open. We could get guests in. We were showing plants, and we had displays. But we had a lot more work to do. In that 10 years, we've added things like our native nursery, an additional feature in terms of the freshwater wetland, which gave us a whole new unique opportunity of species to showcase. And I think most importantly is that we were able to go from a place that was like, okay, we can have visitors, to, oh no, we do education, we do conservation, that these are things that are not something that we just talk about, but we have very active programs. I mean, the program for conservation, the implementation of the global strategy for plant conservation, That's a major achievement for the Bahamas. We're a leader now in the Caribbean region on plant conservation because we've been able to implement that program, because we have a place like the Levy Preserve, which is designed for education and conservation.
Okay, great. Well, we have one final question from Facebook. Do you sell native plants grown in your nursery to the community generally? Ethan, how would you answer this?
Yes, we do. So we have our nursery. We've been doing plant sales periodically, certainly in the before times. When we had regular events, we were always selling plants. And then always looking to work with homeowners as whenever they want in terms of what they develop. So right now we have these stocks, and it's really about, as we go into phase 3, to be able to develop a more upfront nursery area for people to come in and see what these stocks of different species are. But certainly, if there's an interest, yeah, we have trees.
I see Portia is saying something. What did Portia say? Portia made an announcement and I can't see it. Lakeisha, can you see what Portia said?
It says the BNT's education team is pleased to announce that the preserve will soon be a new option for the virtual field trip participants from all over the country.
Cool. Yeah, and that's been something that the thing that by necessity, we started doing a lot of things virtually, including our field trips. And that has really taken off tremendously. And it is going to continue because we have the ability to take people throughout the islands via technology. We're not going to, we're hoping that there's a degree of normalcy that returns sooner than later so that we can actually get people back into the field. I mean, we've had great numbers of visitors today, because we can be naturally socially distanced here. There's the fresh air, so there's less chance of interacting in closed spaces. So these national parks, we definitely want to encourage people to come, not only for the school educational field trips, but come and enjoy so much of what we have to offer. We would like for you to visit the Levy Preserve. We're in Governor's Harbor, between Governor's Harbor and Palmetto Point on the Banks Road. We're just up the road from just north of Pineapple Fields and the restaurant Tippy's, just across the way from the Potlatch Club, which is being renovated. And we'd like for you to be in touch, and learn how you can partner with the BNT on land conservation and, the rewilding that Ethan is talking about. We'd love to get more of you on board. We'd love to show you the benefits of rewilding, not only to your space, but your entire community. And like Portia said, we're going to be offering a lot of virtual park experiences. Our Discovery Club is our award-winning youth environment program. And we're going to be expanding that virtually, as I said, but also creating these incredible experiences. We're going to be actually creating these experiences to national parks safaris, basically, where you can come and go on a special trip, exclusive BNT-led trip to some of these special places with you and your family, your friends, for small group types of experiences, socially distanced, no crowds, you and 70,000 flamingos in Inauga. Think about that. Jeff, our president, just gave a comment thanking the panelists. Jeff, we thank you for your leadership. We know that if you were able to be here, you would have been here with us. So we thank you for your support and leadership. And that's it, except for Anna wants me to put you all on notice that there is something so exciting about to happen in the coming weeks. A really special, huge announcement for the BNT, taking us 60 years into our next 60-year phase. So, Kamala Adair. Nobody called Kamala's name. I apologize. And that's because Kamala doesn't like to get any accolades. But Kamala has been here from day one. So she and Ethan were here before the preserve opened. So Kamala is the deputy preserve manager. thank you, Kamala, for all of your dedicated service to the preserve and to the BNT. So listen out, watch our Facebook page, stay up to date with what's happening for this really big announcement. And it's going to be exciting. I'm certainly excited. So with that, I want to thank all of the panelists. I mean, you guys were amazing. I'm sorry that I talk so much, but that's what I do, and that's why they tell me to do it. So thank you all for being here with us. And I think Elijah's gonna give us a little treat, and I invite you to stay around for another few minutes. Elijah's going to show you our wonderful 10th year anniversary video. Here we go. The Leon Levy Native Plant Preserve is an incredible place. It is a phenomenal national park of local significance, of national importance, of international recognition. It is really very special. It's an important part of the success of the work of the Bahamas National Trust. Certainly of the work that I've been involved with, certainly for the last 20 years. This is certainly absolutely the top, most important, greatest success that we've achieved. That could not have been achieved without Shelby White. It was her vision, it was her support, not only financially, but also in bringing a network of people to help, design and then implement.
Being part of developing the Levy Preserve is one of the most satisfying things that I've done in my life. I was part of this project when it was just a vision in Mrs. White's eyes. And to be able to work with that vision to find a location that could implement that, and then look to transform areas that were heavily disturbed into now beautiful and useful spaces. And to be part of that process from the very beginning, to see what it was when there was just nothing here but bush, and to implement putting in trails and the lath house and water features, and really show what was here on this piece of land. Because this piece of land always had an incredible amount of natural beauty, but you couldn't see it because it was in the bush. And so getting to show off that natural beauty was really, really fun.
My vision for the preserve was very unfocused, I would say, when we first began. I knew that I wanted a place that would preserve the native plants, and a place that people could come to, that would be open to the community, that would teach people on the island what they had and would respect what was here. I didn't have the grand vision that began developing as I worked with Ethan Freed and Eric Carey. And the three of us would kind of sit around and talk and say, well, what if we had something that showed the medicinal plants? And then we began to develop the idea of the medicinal plants, which I'd always had in the back of my mind because I knew about the bush medicine, having been on the island for so long, and I knew that these remedies were passed down from grandmothers to children to grandchildren, and I certainly wanted to show that. So that was something that we began to develop. And then as we began looking around, we thought, well, we should show what people ate when they came here. Let's talk about what the native population had. And it just, every time we would kind of sit together, we would begin to expand our vision.
I remember walking onto the property with Dr. Ethan Freed at the time, Shelby, Liz. I mean, it was a different space. I mean, the beautiful wetland out there with the waterfall was literally a dump. You know, the forested parking lot and so much of what we see around us was degraded landscape because part of it was a developed site. So it was, I guess it was a stark experience. And I was wondering, you know, what are we really going to do here? But Shelby had this incredible vision. Ethan started buying into that because as a botanist specializing in native trees, he knew what was possible from a restoration perspective. I wasn't sure we could create magic, but once we started getting the right people on board and we started talking more to Shelby about what her vision was, and we started hearing about how important, you know, preserving the bush medicine heritage was to Leon Levy, I knew then that we were moving towards something special. So it didn't take me long, but to be honest, at the beginning, I wasn't sure where we would end up.
When I walk through the doors in the morning, I sometimes forget what a privilege it is to call this amazing space my office. The scenes change every day, whether it's banana quits that are feeding at the bird feeders, Bahamian racers sunning on logs, or just the general ambiance of the beautiful trees as the sunlight hits them. The Levy Preserve is really an incredible place to work. We have an amazing staff who dedicate themselves day in and day out to making sure that the grounds are pristine and the guests have a wonderful time. So with 10 years under our belt, my goal for the next 10 years is for there to be a greater national awareness of the work that we do here at the Preserve and by extension the Bahamas National Trust. There are so many dedicated professionals working around the clock to preserve these beautiful spaces that we call home. And I truly believe that the more informed we are as a nation, each one of us can be the very best environmental steward for this beautiful place we call the Bahamas.
So in the next 10 years, we have a lot of plans. There's a lot of things that we want to work on in terms of our collections here. We would like to get to having 50% of the plant diversity in the Bahamas here showcased. Like to be able to have collections of all the endemic species for training as well as for conservation. It's very important for some of these critically endangered species to have them in these ex situ conservations so that we don't have any problems occurring within those populations. The development of our science program in terms of having an herbarium and lab space here for visiting scientists and students to come in and do work on the natural history, I think is going to be a big step for us. And to have the preserve become a training ground, not just for Bahamians, but an international training ground where the facilities that we have are looked at as a place that people want to send their people from other countries to say, this is how it's done, this is what you should do. And to combine all of that, of the research, the training, and the collections, and to be able to say that we are one of the #1 leading botanical gardens in the Caribbean and hopefully someday of the world.
It's hard for me to believe that the Leon Levy Native Plant Preserve is now 10 years old. It has been such a joy to see it develop, to know that we have created something that is not only useful in the community, but is known internationally. We are now a member of the Botanical Garden Conservation Institution. And this is absolutely beyond anything I ever dreamed. And it has been really my pleasure, my benefit almost. I feel as if I've been handed a gift. Just getting to become part of the community has been really so much more than I had ever anticipated when I started coming down here.
Without Shelby's vision, we might have had a little garden with some trails and maybe a little pond. It would have been pretty okay. But what we've achieved because of what Shelby envisioned and what she wanted to see is something that is nothing short of spectacular, nothing short of amazing, and it is something that every Bahamian, like I said earlier, should be proud of. So I can't say thank you to Shelby White enough. I can't say thank you enough to the Leon Levy Foundation, because if Shelby didn't make that call and we didn't come over on that, maybe I think it was a Thursday afternoon, and meet with her and started hearing that vision, you know, and everything that followed. I mean, she made it all happen, and I'm so very grateful for everything that she's done for the Leon Levy Native Plant Preserve, and more broadly, everything that she's done and continues to do for the Bahamas National Trust and the National Park System.